If you've always wanted to paint but didn't think you had the talent, think again, because you don't need to be an artist to be able to create this stunning painting. These flowers are beginner friendly, easy, beautiful, and they only take minutes to do. And the best part is that no drawing skills are required. And in fact, to prove that even a beginner or non-artist can paint this, I actually tested the theory out on my own husband, who has only painted with watercolors maybe once or twice in his whole life. I'll actually show you some footage from his painting in just a little bit, and trust me, you don't want to miss that. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to painting. I think you'll be amazed at what you can achieve in just a few simple steps. So all we need to get started is some watercolor paper, watercolor paints, a paper towel, some clean water, and a brush. Now this is a number 10 round brush that is actually from my own personally designed brush set that will be available for purchase very soon. I have been testing out my samples lately to make sure they are perfect for watercolor painting, but this one is one I haven't had to tweak at all. I am absolutely in love with this brush and I can't wait to share it with you. So let me tape my paper down really quickly with some artist tape and we'll be ready to go. And as a side note, any of the supplies you see me using today will be listed with purchasable links in the description of this video. Now, this is a painting I've done a few times and I've had success with it every time. I actually did a previous tutorial on this same piece almost 2 years ago now when I first created this channel. So if you want to have a good laugh and a chance to see how my video editing has improved over the years, you may enjoy checking out this older video. I also painted this one just as a refresher on the technique for myself a few days ago. This one's a little smaller in size and a little brighter in colors, and I'm telling you, it only took me about 10 minutes to do. Of course, if you're new to painting, it might take longer for you at first, but with practice, you're going to get there too. And then, of course, I have to point out that because these flowers are quick and simple, they make perfect cards to give away, which make them more personal because you painted it. And the best part is that it won't take you much time to do once you've got the hang of it. These are beautiful and fun. So anyway, just open up your minds about the possibilities with this painting today. All right, let's get some colors mixed up on our tray here. Having the colors pre-mixed and ready to go is one of the key elements to making this painting work. I'll be using Quinacridone Rose as a lighter, brighter pink, Alizarin Crimson as a darker, more reddish pink, and some Gamboge yellow. The idea is that when these pinks and yellows touch and blend once as I start painting, they will also create some hues of orange as well. Then I'll mix up a little bit of sap green with just a touch of Quinacridone Rose mixed into it to tone it down and make it more of a brownish green. Now, not too brown though, it still should be mostly green. If you find that it's turned brown, simply add more sap green to the mix. Now, I will point out also, these are the colors that I've chosen to use, but you really could do any colors you want. I think this could look very lovely with some blues and purples. All right, now if you've watched many of my tutorials, you'll know that I often prefer to use a wet on wet technique, especially when it comes to flower petals. But we won't be doing that today. This is mostly a wet on dry painting, meaning that I am not putting any water down on the paper first. I'm just going straight on here with the paint. I'll start painting a little ways down from the top of the page. I'll probably come back in here and add some smaller buds or greenery at the top later, so I do want to leave a little bit of room up there. And then I'll start applying any variety of the paints in sort of a circular motion of the brush, just making roundish blobs and shapes of color. You'll see that I'm not necessarily trying to shape them into a flower form. This is a little more loose and a little more abstract. Just having rounded forms and edges gives our mind the idea that these are flowers. Now, you can use any color combinations that you want here. I've sort of moved from pink to yellow to the darker pink, and then anywhere that the yellow and pink are touching or blending, it's creating sort of an orange hint. Really, you can do whatever you feel in the mood to do or what you feel looks good. Then while this paint is still slightly wet here, I'll come back in with this darker alizarin crimson and place in some dots of color where I think maybe it looks like the center of a flower could be. This really just is emphasizing the look of a flower amongst all these loose blobby shapes. I'm going to go ahead and paint 3 more stalks of these loose flowers, so there will be 4 in total altogether. And a couple of other tips that I'll throw at you. Try to leave a few white spaces in between some of these circular flower shapes just to break things up a little bit. And then if you like, you can have some lighter values in here. All you have to do is add in some extra water to your paint. Now, sometimes I'll even just get some paint in my bristles and then afterwards dip it in the water, not totally rinsing out the color, but it does dilute the pigment just a little bit, making it more watered down and lighter in value. But of course, if it's easier, you can just mix some extra water into a portion of the color that's already on your tray. If you find that the darker dots in the center of the flower is bleeding too much into the flower and it's not very noticeable anymore, give those flowers and that paint a minute or two to dry a little bit and then try again, or add in some more color in there if you need to later. I also want to say that it's okay if your painting looks different than mine. In fact, it probably will, mostly because this is a loose type of painting technique. And that's okay. I'm just your guide to get you started, but you are the artist for your work, and it's okay to have it unique and different. Now, another thing you'll notice is that I am starting the flower shapes a little smaller at the top, and then as I move down the stalk, I am gradually making them slightly bigger. I hope you're finding the tips in this tutorial helpful so far. If you are, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my new and upcoming tutorials. I try really hard to have a variety of skill-leveled paintings to fit whoever might be watching, from basic, easy beginner videos up to more advanced. So while we finish off this portion of the painting, I'm just going to post in the corner of this video a little bit of my husband's attempt at this painting. It was so cute to watch him, and I'm telling you, he is not an artist person. He doesn't paint and very, very rarely draws. So I love you, hon, forgive me for saying this, but I'm telling you, if he can paint this, literally anyone can. And I have to say, he really did a good job. It didn't turn out half bad. He got better at his flowers as he went. His third stalk actually turned out really well, which just goes to show that some amount of practice does help. And I think if he did this again, he would do even better. He was a really good sport to give it a try. All right, now that we've got the 4 stalks of flowers painted in here, let's come back to the tops of them and add in some smaller bud-sized shapes. Now you can use any variety of colors for this. I am using sort of a lighter pink. Now let's move on to adding in a little bit of the greenery here to really connect and finish off this flower look. And if you don't want the green to blend or bleed into the flowers, you'll need to make sure that all of your painting is completely dry up to this point. Now, even though I'm using a large number 10 brush for this, the tip on it is so nice and pointy that I can easily paint some really thin lines using it as well, which is something I really love about my designed Craftimo brushes. So if the brush you're using has a nice tip, you can go ahead and use it for the greenery, or you can also feel free to switch over to a smaller, thinner brush if that's what works best for you. So here you'll see I'm just quickly adding in some thin little stem lines in some of these more empty spaces of the page that make it look like the flowers are branching out or connecting to a main flower stalk. Then when I get down to the bottom part of the stalk, I'll make the lines a little thicker at the bottom. And I might even add a few extra random green lines of color coming from the tops of the flower stalks, as well as a few down the sides or bottom here and there, just a fun fill in the space kind of look. Now, don't get too crazy with this though. These are just accents to the flowers. A little bit goes a long way, and we don't want them to overpower or become the focal point of the picture. Now that I've got some of this greenery at the top, I feel like I still need to add in some more, even smaller pink buds along here. But you be the gauge for what your piece needs. Maybe it needs more, but maybe your painting is just fine how it is. All right, the last thing I'll add in here to finish this painting off is a few leaves. These are very simple one-stroke leaves. This particular brush does very well at this also. Basically, I'll start with the tip of my brush touching the paper. Then as I move down, I'll press down more heavily on the brush bristles to make the stroke more broad. Then I'll pull the brush back up to the tip, making a thinner point at the bottom of the leaf. Now, this might take a little bit of practice to do if you're new to painting, but if you feel nervous to do it on your artwork, take a separate piece of scrap paper and try it there a few times first until you get the hang of it, and then you can move on to doing it on your painting when you feel more confident. I'll add a few of these grassy leaves along the sides of the stalks as well, but again, don't get too carried away with this. Just create a nice organic accent of color. And my friends, that is it. Yes, that is really all there was to painting this pretty little piece. It is just fun, simple, quick, and enjoyable to do. I hope you had some fun today and maybe even learned something new. If you did enjoy this tutorial, please consider subscribing to my channel so I can continue to help you discover your artistic side.